Let's be honest, your MVP is probably 3 times bigger than it needs to be. Hi, I'm Martin, and if you are a founder building your first product without a technical co-founder, this is probably the most important thing you need to hear. The real issue usually isn't the technology, it's the scope. When founders design an MVP, the scope grows before a single user ever touches the product. You start with something simple, then you add profiles, then messaging, then payments, not because you are careless, but because it feels necessary. At the MVP stage, you are not building the full system. You are testing one specific interaction. And if that interaction doesn't work, features won't fix it. So let's reset how to scope this properly. Let's use a concrete example. Imagine you are building a niche marketplace. It connects YouTubers with freelance video editors. Before we talk about features or timelines, we need to fix one thing. Most founders think MVP means a smaller version of the final product. It doesn't. An MVP is the smallest version of your idea that lets you test one core interaction. In this case, it's simple. A YouTuber needs an editor wants work, they get matched. That's the only thing we are testing. Not retention, not automation, not long-term scalability. Just one question. If we put these two sides in front of each other, does value happen? Because if it doesn't, adding more features won't help. If it does, you can improve everything else later. So from this point, every decision we make will be about protecting that single interaction. If something doesn't directly support it, it's out. And that is exactly where things start to expand. You begin with that simple interaction. A YouTuber needs an editor and editor wants work, but then you think, okay, but they need profiles. Otherwise, how do they trust each other? And messaging, they need to talk inside the platform. And payments, we can't send them outside. And reviews, otherwise quality will drop. Each of those decisions sounds reasonable. Individually, they make sense. But together, they quietly turns a test into a product build. Now, instead of testing one interaction, you are designing an infrastructure. And infrastructure takes time. It also creates a hidden assumption that the core interaction already works. But we don't know that yet. We don't know if YouTubers will actually post requests. We don't know if editors will respond fast enough. We don't know if there is urgency on both sides. And if those dynamics aren't there, a perfect payment system won't save you. This is where most founders lose 3 to 4 months. Not because they are inefficient, but because they never stop to ask, what is the minimum version of that interaction that we can test in 1 month? So if we want to make this a 1 month MVP, we don't start with features. We start with narrowing the user. Not YouTubers and video editors. That's too broad. Because a YouTuber with 2,000 subscribers behaves very differently than somebody with 2 millions. Different budget, different urgency, different expectations. If you keep the definition wide, your product logic becomes wide. So instead, we define something uncomfortable. For example, YouTubers with 10 to 15,000 subscribers who post at least twice a week and need short-term editors for clips. Now we are talking about a very specific situation. Someone who is growing, feels time pressure, probably can't afford a full-time editor but needs help. And why does this matter? Because MVP scope follows user clarity. If you don't narrow the user, you will end up building flexibility. And flexibility is expensive. In 1 month MVP, clarity beats flexibility every time. Now that we narrow the user, we narrow the situation. Because finding editors is not a situation, it's a category. And categories are too abstract to build around. So instead we define one specific moment. For example, I need an editor this week because I am behind of my content schedule. And now we have urgency. We have time pressure. We have a reason to act. And why does this matter? Because MVPs are built around moments, not general needs. If you design for finding collaborators, you will build browsing, profiles, discovery, filters. And if you design for I need someone this week, you will design just for fast matching, and that changes the scope completely. Now we are not building a marketplace, we are building a fast matching mechanism for urgent request. That's a much smaller problem, and smaller problems fits into 1 month. Now we get to the most important part. What is the single action that proves value? One action. In this case, a YouTuber submits a request and gets matched with an available editor within 24 hours. That's it. If that doesn't happen consistently, nothing else matters. Success is not the platform works. Success is did the core action happen? And can it happen again? If you can't answer that clearly after 1 month, your scope was too big. Now comes the uncomfortable part. Once you define the core action, you have to remove everything that doesn't directly support it. Do we need in-app messaging? Not necessarily. Users can use emails. Do we need in-app payments? Maybe, but only as complex as your model requires. Do we need dashboards? Also not at the beginning. Remember, the only thing we are testing is can we reliably match urgent demand with available supply. If the answer is yes, you earn the right to automate. If the answer is no, you just saved months of unnecessary development. Now, let's talk about monetization, because an MVP without monetization is often misleading. Interest is cheap. Money is signal. Your MVP should test real willingness to pay. If your model is simple, like a fixed matching fee, you can start lightweight with some Stripe links. Manual confirmation, but if your business model depends on subscription or automated revenue splits, then payments are part of the core loop. You don't build that for scratch, you just use some SDK. And SDK is a pre-built software module that handles subscriptions or payments for you. For example, tools like Revenue Cut manage subscription logic, renewals, and edge cases. That alone can save you days or weeks. And if you are using low-code tools like Flutterflow, subscription models are already integrated. In many cases, you just enable subscriptions, connect your store accounts, configure the plans, and the code level complexity is already handled. You are configuring, not building infrastructure. The goal is to validate the business model within 1 month, not to become a payment infrastructure company. So after all of that, here's the uncomfortable truth. A good 1 month MVP often feels underwhelming, not impressive, not feature rich, and that's why it works. If your MVP already feels like a polished platform, you probably optimize for completeness, not for learning. What do we really have after 1 month? A specific user, a specific urgent moment, a simple request flow, a matching process, payments working. That's it. From the outside, it might look small, but it answers the only question that matters. Do people care enough to use this and pay for it? And when your scope is tight enough to build in 1 month, something powerful happens. You don't just build faster, you learn faster, because a focused MVP is small enough to ship early. In many cases, that means you can release a beta after just 2 weeks, not after a full month. And that changed everything. That's why the next part matters. Feedback doesn't start after launch. It starts before you even finish building. In fact, it should start before you write the first line of code. Before you build anything, talk to people. Not in a way like, would you use this? But in a way, how are you solving this today? If you find someone who clearly feels the problem, don't just say, great, I will build it. Collect their mail. You can create a simple landing page. No complex branding, no polished design, just who is this for, what problem it solves, what outcome they can expect, and a simple email form. Now, I'm not a landing page expert, so I'm not gonna recommend any specific tool, but there are plenty of tools out there that offer almost ready-made landing pages templates for a few $1,000s. You don't need to build this from scratch. Use some template, customize the copy, publish it in a few hours. If you are not sure how it should look, generate some simple design on, for example, Google Stitch AI, and then use it as inspiration. The goal is not a perfect branding experience. It's a clear message and an email field. When someone says they are interested, send them that page. If they leave their email, that's a signal. Now we are building a small, qualified beta list. And this is where most founders waste time. They think development means waiting. It doesn't. While you are building, you should be talking, posting in niche communities, replying in forums, reaching out directly to people who clearly fit your ideal user profile. Because when you have even 10 engaged potential users, you are not building in the dark anymore. Now, let's talk about beta access itself. Most people don't realize this, but you can release your app in beta directly through the stores. On iOS, you use TestFlight. On Google Play, you can use internal or closed testing. You just upload a build and add the emails of your beta users. They receive an official invitation and they can download your app directly from the store. So there is no technical friction, it feels real, and that changes how people treat your product. When I was building one of my apps in Flutterflow, I had a functional beta after 2 weeks. Not polished, but usable. And because I already had a small list of interested users, I could immediately invite them. That's when real learning started. Not after launch, not after marketing, just 2 weeks in, and here's the mindset shift. A 1-month MVP is not 1 month of silent development. It's 2 weeks of focused development and 2 weeks of structured learning. You are not sitting with your hands crossed while development happens. You are iterating, clarifying, positioning, refining your core interaction. And remember, feedback is just an input, not instruction. You don't rebuild your product because one person had an opinion. You look for patterns, repeated friction, repeated confusion, repeated hesitation around payment. That's what guides you. Your 1-month MVP should include real conversations, real emails collected, real beta users, and real feedback, not silent development in isolation. This approach isn't for everyone. If you are building in a heavily regulated space or needs deep enterprise integrations, moving this way might be not realistic. But for early stage founders, speed of learning is your advantage. Define one user, one painful moment, one core action, one way to get paid, and build only that. If you can test it in 1 month, you are probably scoping it right. And if you are struggling to cut scope without breaking the idea, sometimes an external perspective helps. A short conversation can save you months. And that's it. If this helped you rethink your MVP scope, that's exactly the point of this channel. If you are building something right now, let me know in the comments what stage you are. And if you want more practical breakdowns like this, subscribe. Because most startup mistakes don't happen in code. They happen in decisions made before the code. See you in the next one.